Hello, and welcome to our next tutorial in creating our campaign for Deneir's Gate. In this tutorial, we're going to be looking at how to create dungeons. We can get to our dungeon screen here by using the dungeons menu item on the side here, just like everything else. And we don't currently have anything, so we'll just go ahead and hit create dungeon up here. And we'll hide this tutorial. And what we'll do is, because a lot of this tutorial series is using the Lost Mine of Pandelver as just sort of a inspiration point, as something that a lot of us are familiar with, I'm going to be using this dungeon to create the Krogma hideout. So we'll go ahead and do that there. Yeah, nice. And for the description of it, well, I could provide a manual description, or if I was creating my own custom dungeon, I'd use the magic wand here to create something unique and different, point of inspiration for the dungeon to be based off of. In this case, I'll go ahead and delete it and just provide my own. All right, so we've provided a little description, sort of based off of the description inside the handbook for the Lost Mine of Pandelver. And also using its map, we'll be using our tile system over here to create the Kragma hideout itself. And so we can do this by first setting any width and height depending on how big we want it to be. And if we need to update this at any time, we can, but we'll just leave it as 5 by 5 for now. And the way that this tiling system works is to try to make this as easy and simple as can be. I know I personally often don't create dungeons for my characters before using the system, that is, because it can be very overwhelming. All the different rooms and what can exist in the rooms, the types of fights that would be in there, and just the general layout. It can be a lot. And so using the tiling system, we can just use simple directional tiles to sort of build it out step by step. So you don't really need to have a big picture, nor do you need to worry about any drawing skills of any sort. So we'll go ahead and start up here. And by clicking on one of the tiles, we'll get this little modal that'll let us select a category between 1 path, 2 path, 3 paths, or 4 paths, meaning how many paths lead in or out of the room or the hallway that we're looking at. In this case, I'll say that we have 1 path, and we have here endpoint hallways or rooms. And so none of these inherently mean anything. It's just all design for however you want to build it and connect it out. So we'll just start with 1 room to the side here, and we'll continue to build it out. Let's see, we have a little bit of a T shape coming out from there, like that. And a hallway that continues from there. And I'll go ahead and pause and pick back up once I have the whole thing sort of built out by just using this point and click setup for these tiles. All right, so now that we have that done, which took me just about 2 minutes to sort of build this whole thing out, we can see that we have a general Kragma hideout inspired dungeon just built out by these tiles, again, by that simple point and click. And now that we have those, let's start to provide some actual information for those. So let's see, starting down here, we have a 1, so we'll just go ahead and add, let's see, what do we want to add here? We'll go ahead and add a description here that talks about 2 goblins, or the goblins in area 2. Keeping watch. With enough noise, they can notice the party and attack. Okay, we'll go ahead and save that. And so we see that we get a number 1 down here, and it'll also pop up on the side here with our description. And so now I'll go ahead and add some of the descriptions to some of the other areas. So I'll pause for that. All right, so I've added just a little description for our area 2 here, but also we have a possible encounter that can happen here. So here's where we'll show off our encounter feature. So if we click on the little edit button on the tile, we can click on encounter. And we'll have our encounter modal pop up here. And here we can create an entire balanced fight for our players, depending on how easy or how difficult we want it to be. So for the name of it, we'll just go ahead and call it Goblin Blind. And I don't really feel like I have any needed description I want to supply here, but you can always supply whatever you need to. And for monsters, if we want to, we can go ahead and click filter monster and go ahead and just search for goblins here. And we'll see we have a variety of goblins pop up. And then we can add them to our combat and keep track of how difficult this would be for our players. Now, something important to note here is the difficulty being calculated here is basing itself off of the levels of the players in your campaign. So you don't need to supply that information here or in the story arcs where you can make more encounters. All of this will already keep in mind designing to balance based on the levels of your players that you have for your campaign. Everything in here exists within your campaign. So this is showing us that this would be just having one of them would be super easy. We can go ahead and increase the number of them if we want to. Even two of them would be easy. Oh, three of them now it started to become a hard fight, and if we had four of them, that would be deadly against our four level 1 players. So we'll just go ahead and bring it back down to easy because this should be a small little fight. Now, alternatively, we can actually say, just because this is again being inspired by the Lost Mine of Pendelver, but doesn't have to be based on something else that we can do is suggest a monster based on our party's difficulty. And Deneir's Gate will go ahead and suggest a monster based on our party's level to suggest something of just for the fight. Something that would be around their level and see how it is. So I'll go ahead and remove these goblins here. And we have a dire wolf as a challenge rating 1 here. We can see it's a large beast, all that stuff. So let's add it. And that would be about a medium fight. Maybe let's say that's a little hard. We don't want it to be that hard. We want something a little bit easier. So let's just say easier right here. And we get a Myconid adult, challenge rating of 1/2, and that would be an easy fight. But that's only one of them. So what if we want to increase that? Well, that would be difficult. So let's change that to something else, something even easier. Duodrone Modron. So let's see. Increase that. Okay, and that would be super easy. This comes out to be around the same thing as the goblins, and we want 2 of them, and that's about that. Is there anything even easier? We do have Slad Tadpoles. We want to fight a collection of things. Oh, we could fight 3, 4 of them, and that'd be about a medium fight. Well, let's say that's what we want to do. So we have a nice medium fight. Someone can introduce our players to the game, and we can fight 4 of them so that there's multiple targets for everybody. For now, though, let's just go ahead and get rid of these, and we'll go back to using our goblins. Nice 2 of them, and there we go. And of course, for this fight, we might not want any magic items, but in other ones we might. And so we can do the same thing here. If we click on the magic items tab, we can do a filter and search for any possible magic items and searching by any criteria. Armors, by rarity, by if it needs attunement or not. And so let's maybe say we want a potion to come up as a reward. So we can search that. And we get this nice variety of potions that pop up here that we can read through and decide if it's something that we want for our players or not. Otherwise, we can also, just like the monsters, suggest a magic item based on the level of our players and what might be fitting for their current level. And so in this case, we might get a spell scroll. If we click it again, we can get something else, a potion of healing. That sounds nice. But maybe we want something a little even more common. Well, nothing less than common, I suppose, or maybe something a little more rare. So we get a Dust of Dryness as an uncommon item, Wondrous. Okay, what about even more rare than that? A Mantle of Spell Resistance. Okay, so we have a nice variety that we can get just by suggesting, again, based on our player's level and ranking out the magic items in our in the background, that it can suggest something fitting for them. But in this case, I'd like to stick with maybe a potion. So let's see. We look through these. A Filter of Love. Okay. Maybe more specifically, I'm looking for something of healing. There we go. Elixir of Health, Potion of Greater Healing, Potion of Healing, Supreme Healing. So let's just say Potion of Healing looks good, and we'll add that. And there can be 1 Potion of Healing that they can get as a reward for this dungeon, and any treasure. Now, if this were a bigger fight, maybe we'd want to suggest a random treasure hoard for us. And again, this is all something that can be suggested based off the party's level. Nothing that you need to go searching through the book to find and what makes sense. Just get a list of them here. And if you don't know what type of stones that may come up, we can get a little hint to tell us what this means, what it translates to, how much money it comes out to, all these sort of things. So that, again, you don't have to know all this. So if you're a new DM and you're new to all these sort of things, bloodstones, zicrons, sardonyxes, all those things, you don't have to know what they are because we'll tell you for you and what those would translate to if you took them to a shop for them to sell, perchance. In this case, though, I don't think we want a random treasure hoard for a fight this small, so I'm just going to say a random treasure. And so we'll just get something small, about 16 silver. That seems about right for our characters. We'll just go ahead and add that, and that'll pop up in the reward summary there. And I think this gives us a nice solid encounter, so I'll go ahead and save this. Excellent. And we'll close that out. And that we notice that we get our encounter here under the number 2 as well. In this case, I think I want a little bit of a description. So I'll just open back up the encounter and provide a little bit of thing here. And go ahead and save that again. Just so that I can get a little bit of a description there. That's nice. And now let's move on to somewhere else. So let's say that once they enter the cave, they're on the enemies are on the lookout for any intruders. So maybe they have a trap set up in the beginning here. So let's say on this little hallway, I'm looking for a trap. So we'll click on the edit button and trap. And just like we saw for the encounters for the monsters and the magic items, we can filter for specific traps if we're looking for anything. Otherwise, we could always just suggest a random trap for ourselves by just hitting generate stats here. And we can get, let's see, a magic or mechanical, a setback. Let's say they're more mechanical and we want it to only be a setback. And so because it's a setback, again, we hit those generate stats and we get a random DC for what that trap would be in an attack. And again, these are things, the DC, the attack, the damage, these are all things based on our party's level. So you don't need to do the work to calculate what would be, sounds like a fair trap, but would actually kill your players immediately. Or something that you wanted to be a little bit harder. Maybe you wanted it to be deadly. And we get those stats, a DC of 18, attack of 12, damage of 40, 10. And you'll know that it actually will hurt them and not just give them a little bit of a tickle. So let's go back to setback. And so here we can search through the traps that we may have created in our traps category in the site. And in this case, we'll just search for any. And I've created this little bear trap, which is a mechanical setback. So I'll go ahead and add that. Great. And so now we can see we have our bear trap, mechanical setback, and we'll go ahead and generate stats again. We have 11, 5, 1d10. And we get our description that came from there. Otherwise, if we don't have an idea for a trap right now, I'll keep this one because I would like to keep it. But let's just say we wanted to make a trap right on the spot, not something that we have as a pre-existing trap that we might use over and over again. I can just hit the magic wand feature here and get something completely new just to inspire me and use that to create our entire trap. So we should be able to create our trap in seconds and by suggestions based on our character's level without having to work so hard. But I'm going to keep the bear trap one for now and save that. Excellent. And we have that under 3. We have a good summary of it. And let's just go ahead and say that that is enough of our hideout for now. Of course, we have more rooms with more traps and more everything, but we can see how easy it is to create those at this point. So I'm just going to go ahead and save this. Excellent. And now that it is saved, we can do the same thing as we can do with our characters and with settlements, and we can print this dungeon and take it with us. So I'll just click on the print option down here, and we'll get a new tab with our print ready dungeon. And as you can see, we get the name, the description. We get a layout of the numbers attached to the different areas where we have our descriptions. In 2, where we have a description mixed with a encounter. We get our encounter sort of built out for us here, giving us a good summary of the total XP of it, the description, the monsters, the treasure, any magic items, all of those things. And we also can get the trap associated with 3 right there. So as you can see, we can just create this dungeon with a nice simple point and click all across using the tiles and using suggested encounters, suggested traps, and all those things. And then when we're all done, we can just hit print. It will build out the entire dungeon for us, and we're all set to go for the table. And that is how you create a dungeon using Deneir's Gate. So we will see you in the next tutorial. Thanks.